Have you ever noticed how an INFJ falls silent at the very moment conflict is about to spark? Perhaps you've seen it. A friend's face goes blank when they should be furious, or a colleague swallows their opinion just as the meeting heats up. If that someone is an INFJ, what you're witnessing is a quiet storm of mental math. In those seconds of silence, the INFJ is running countless emotional calculations, predicting outcomes, weighing others' feelings against their own, deciding whether to speak up or stay quiet. These are the emotional calculations INFJs never admit making. And today, we're pulling back the curtain on this secret inner world. Welcome. In this in-depth video, we're going to name and explore those hidden INFJ decision-making processes, the ones around emotional conflict, chronic people-pleasing, uncanny intuition, sudden withdrawal, and strategic silence. We'll dive into psychological research and even a bit of neuroscience. Think emotional load on the brain, how the prefrontal cortex helps resolve conflict, and how INFJ intuition links to our brain's social prediction networks. And stick around, because we're not stopping at insight. I'll share practical tools to help INFJs turn these mental calculations from a burden into a superpower. From journaling prompts and reflection exercises to surprising new AI self-tracking tools. By the end of this video, you'll not only feel deeply validated in your complexity, but also equipped to take back emotional control of your life. So INFJ or otherwise, get comfortable. Let's decode the emotional algebra running in an INFJ's mind, starting right now. The invisible equation, INFJ peacekeeping mode. Picture this. It's been a long week and you desperately need alone time. You're finally home with a cup of tea, breathing in a moment of peace when your phone buzzes. It's a close friend in crisis, asking for your help tonight. Your heart sinks, you're exhausted. You start to type, "I'm so sorry, I can't tonight." But then it happens. Your mind launches into its signature spiral. In a flash, you foresee every possible consequence. What if I say no and they feel abandoned? What if they take it personally? Before you know it, you've imagined a dozen scenarios where your refusal leads to heartbreak. You delete your "I can't" and instead type, "Do you need me to come over?" Sound familiar? This is INFJ peacekeeping mode in action. The invisible equation that balances your needs against others' needs, and almost always tips the scale toward keeping others happy. In that brief pause, you performed what I call emotional calculus. Because avoiding conflict often feels like a matter of survival, research shows a whopping 86% of INFJs say they usually put other people's needs before their own. From the outside, it looks like kindness, but under the hood, it's also anxiety and anticipation. Your brain is scanning for emotional disturbance in the force. Thanks to your dominant cognitive functions, you have an almost uncanny radar for potential conflict. You don't just see what's happening, you sense what could happen. It's like you're always running simulations of people's feelings in the near future. Neuroscientists have found your brain's default mode network actually splits. One part constructs the scenario, and another evaluates whether it's good or bad. If you're an INFJ, you live in that mode daily. Your mind automatically constructs vivid what-if scenarios and evaluates their emotional impact, almost like breathing. Brain research suggests that imagining an emotional scenario lights up many of the same regions as actually living it. You effectively just live through all those outcomes. And then, after all that calculation, you likely chose the path of least conflict. Self-sacrifice. The world has no idea what that quiet decision cost you internally. Before we go deeper, let me assure you, you're not crazy or weak for doing this. You're operating from a place of profound emotional intelligence. Stay with me, because next we'll delve into exactly how these hidden calculations play out and how to balance them. Recognizing these patterns is the first step. Let's start with the most common equation, people-pleasing. If you're an INFJ, you know this pattern intimately. You walk through life like an emotional sponge and mirror combined, absorbing everyone's feelings and reflecting back whatever will keep the peace. Psychologists call this high empathy, and INFJs have it in spades. In fact, one personality study describes how INFJs create a constant stream of emotional data from others. We don't just observe emotions, we absorb them. Imagine that. You're processing your own complex feelings and everyone else's all at once, creating a chaotic emotional traffic jam inside you. No wonder conflict feels so dangerous. You already carry enough emotional noise. Adding open conflict on top might just overflow the system. So, almost by instinct, you start people-pleasing as a survival strategy. This is that internal rule: keep others happy and I'll be safe, or at least things will be calm. When someone asks something of you, whether it's a favor, a last-minute work task, or emotional support you're too drained to give, your extroverted feeling, FE, kicks in with acute awareness of their needs and expectations. Simultaneously, your introverted intuition, NI, is forecasting all the relational dynamics if you say no. And here comes the people-pleasing predicament. The mental math churns out dozens of reasons you should say yes. You might feel that saying no is not just disappointing someone, but akin to harming them or the relationship. The data backs this up. Remember that stat: 86% of INFJs admit they usually put others' needs ahead of their own. That's virtually all of us. And it starts early. Many INFJs grew up being the peacemaker or the counselor in their families, praised for being so understanding or so good. Our identity got tied to keeping others happy. As adults, it becomes almost automatic. But here's the predicament. Every time you prioritize others by default, you deprioritize yourself. Over time, that self-neglect accumulates like a debt. Externally, you appear agreeable and accommodating, the easygoing friend, the reliable coworker, the partner who never complains. Internally, though, resentment quietly builds interest on that debt. You feel exhausted from always saying yes, anxious from constantly monitoring others' moods, and perhaps a bit invisible, because who's monitoring your mood? Certainly not the people you never let see it. This people-pleasing calculation is so ingrained that INFJs often don't even realize they're doing it. Have you ever caught yourself saying yes automatically and only later, alone, you think, why did I agree to that? I really didn't want to. It's like a reflex. Request comes in, you foresee their disappointment if you refuse. Your empathy flares, your own need shrinks away. Response: sure, I'll do it. Path of least resistance, at least in the short term. The irony is, this isn't actually the path of least resistance at all. It's just deferring resistance to within yourself. You absorb the resistance internally by resisting your own needs. Psychologically, what's happening is a classic INFJ tug-of-war between the feeling drive to maintain harmony and the quieter voice of personal truth. Did you know roughly 77% of INFJs struggle to express their own wants and needs? It's one of the highest rates among all types. No surprise, right? We choke down our true feelings because expressing them feels overwhelming or even selfish. And if you are a turbulent INFJ, the more anxious variety, this is amplified. Research shows turbulent INFJs agonize over others' opinions far more than assertive INFJs. 85% of INFJTS worry what others think versus only 35% of the more chill INFJA. So if you got that turbulent streak, your people-pleasing isn't just about harmony. It's about securing approval and warding off any chance of disapproval. You're not just avoiding conflict, you're avoiding being disliked. The stakes in your mind couldn't be higher. All right, take a breath, literally. If hearing this is stirring some uncomfortable truth in you, I want you to pause with me. This is a micro pause, almost like a mini pattern interrupt to keep you grounded. Take a slow, deep breath. Recognize where you feel tension, maybe your shoulders or jaw. As you exhale, release it. This simple act is more than relaxation. It's engaging your rational brain, your prefrontal cortex. Neuroscientists have a tip here. When conflict or fear triggers your amygdala, your fight or flight alarm, deliberate breathing helps calm that amygdala and engage the prefrontal cortex. In other words, a deep breath is a tiny act of self-control. It cuts through the emotional overwhelm and helps you think clearly. And thinking clearly is exactly what we need to do next, because people-pleasing may feel like kindness, but unchecked. It's a recipe for burnout and hidden resentment. We've laid out the pattern, now let's shift perspective. Coming up, we'll introduce a crucial variable INFJs often leave out of their equations, themselves. And that realization can be a game changer, Keep watching because an emotional pivot is on the horizon. Hold on, let's stop right here. I want to pose a question that might just flip your perspective. Where are you in all these calculations? Think about it. You, the INFJ, meticulously calculate how everyone else will feel if you do X or say Y. But have you noticed? You often fail to calculate the cost to your own heart. It's like you've been leaving the most important variable out of the equation. Imagine a math equation where you account for A, B, C, all the other people's feelings, but ignore X you're feeling. The result will always be skewed in real terms. Every time you decide, I won't upset them, I'll keep the peace. You might be upsetting yourself and disturbing your own peace, but you rarely give that equal weight. What's the emotional price you pay for constantly smoothing things over? Perhaps it's chronic anxiety or fatigue that goes bone deep, or the quiet despair of feeling unknown because no one sees your struggle. These are costs that accumulate, and eventually the debt comes due, often in the form of an INFJ burnout or the infamous INFJ Door Slam. You've heard of it, the INFJ Door Slam. When an INFJ, after silently taking too much for too long, cuts someone out or withdraws completely. Often with chilly finality, it's not explosive anger, it's an implosion. One day you go to find the INFJ and they're just gone from that person's life. In my earlier scenario, that friend who texted at midnight, if they repeatedly take advantage of your kindness, an INFJ might one day simply vanish from that friendship. No dramatic confrontation, just silence. Why? Because all those unacknowledged self-costs finally crossed a line. The equation no longer balanced. The only solution left was to subtract the INFJ entirely. As one description, put it, INFJs don't explode. They quietly rewrite you internally, effectively deleting the version of you they once trusted. Once their internal calculus says enough, the door slam is the final drastic emotional calculation. The decision that preserving any relationship isn't worth the ongoing damage to self. It's brutal, and it's usually a last resort. Here's the kicker. By the time it gets to that point, the INFJ is beyond drained. We're talking emotional shutdown, often physical symptoms of stress, maybe depression or a health breakdown. All those years of micro-sacrifices add up. This is why recognizing the missing variable, you, is so critical, and why this topic is essential for INFJs. If you don't start including yourself in the equation now, the math will do itself eventually, and you might not like the outcome. All right, deep breath. Again, this was a heavy realization, I know, but it's also empowering because once you see this pattern, you can start to change it. You can rebalance the equation. The beautiful thing is, you don't have to stop caring about others, not at all. In fact, by caring for yourself better, you'll be able to help others more sustainably and authentically. The goal is not to turn you into a selfish person. It's to prevent self-sacrifice from quietly hollowing you out. From here on, our video shifts from uncovering the problem to building the solution. Stay with me. Because next, we'll talk about practical tools and strategies to help you recalibrate those emotional calculations. Think of it like upgrading the INFJ mental software, keeping all the empathy and intuition, but adding new algorithms for self-care, honest communication, and balanced decisions ready to take back some control. Let's dive into the tools that can make it happen. Taking back control, rewriting the INFJ mental math. This is where emotional intelligence meets action. We're going to equip your INFJ mind with new habits and prompts so those endless calculations don't run you, you run them. Consider this the deep validation and toolkit portion of our journey. You've seen the invisible patterns, now let's give you ways to manage them and even turn them into strengths. 1. Journaling prompts put you on paper. INFJs live so much in our heads that thoughts can feel like a tangled forest. Writing is like cutting a clear path through it. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is journaling, especially when you feel that swirl of overthinking or you're on the verge of people-pleasing. Why? Because writing forces you to slow down and engage the logical part of your brain. In fact, conflict coaches suggest that writing down your thoughts before a difficult conversation engages your rational prefrontal cortex. It helps you think long-term and avoid knee-jerk emotional reactions. It's like giving the wise, analytical part of you a seat at the table with your emotional side. Try this. Next time someone asks you for something and you feel that pang of, I should say yes, even though I don't want to, pause. Grab a journal or even a notes app and spend a few minutes writing out your feelings unedited. You can use prompts like, how do I actually feel about this request? Be brutally honest. Are you excited, hesitant, dreading it? Do I have the emotional energy for this? Check in with your energy tank. Are you running on fumes? What would saying yes cost me? Visualize your day or week if you add this commitment. What gets displaced? Sleep, sanity, time with family, your creative project? Writing out these answers shifts the focus back to you momentarily, which is exactly what our INFJ brains need practice in. It gives you concrete data on your own state, which can counterbalance the flood of concern about the other person. Journaling also externalizes the spiral. Those racing thoughts get pinned onto a page where you can actually examine them, rather than them pinning you down in an internal loop. There's even a high-tech twist to this tool, AI-assisted journaling apps. If you're the kind of INFJ who enjoys tech or wants guidance, there are apps that provide prompts, track your mood, and even use AI to detect patterns in your entries. Imagine an AI that notices, hey, you've said you feel guilty 3 times this week after talking to person X, and then gently suggests reflection prompts. These tools act like a personal coach, helping you see blind spots in your emotional calculus. They won't solve your problems, but they can be a supportive mirror. Some INFJs find it easier to talk to a digital journal that asks questions, almost like a therapist in your pocket, especially when you're not ready to unload these worries on a real person. It's private, always available, and non-judgmental. A great practice arena for voicing your needs and feelings. Whether you use plain pen and paper or a fancy AI journal, the key is to start articulating yourself. Get into the habit of doing a quick journal check-in for decisions that you know typically trigger your people-pleasing. Even a 5-minute scribble before you respond to that text can make a huge difference. It inserts a moment of self into the equation, giving you a chance to notice, actually, I'm not okay with this, before autopiloting into, fine, I'll do it. We touched on this briefly, but let's dig deeper. Mindful breathing and body awareness as a pattern interrupt in the moment. Remember how your brain's fear center, the amygdala, hijacks you during conflict or stress? One of the fastest ways to break that hijack is the classic pause and breathe. It sounds almost too simple, right? But there's real neuroscience behind it. When you consciously take slow, deep breaths, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, basically your body's chill out command. This not only begins to calm the racing heart and tense muscles, it also signals to your brain that the immediate threat is passing, allowing your prefrontal cortex, the rational decision maker, to regain control. For INFJs specifically, this is golden because our minds can spiral into overanalysis so quickly. Think of mindful breathing as hitting the reset button on an overheated processor. Next time you feel yourself starting to spiral, maybe you got an upsetting email or someone's pushing you for an answer, stop. Don't respond yet. Close your eyes if you can. Take a long inhale, count 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 6 or 8. Feel your shoulders drop. Notice if you were clenching your jaw or fists. Let that go on an exhale. Even 3 or 4 deep breaths can clear out that adrenaline haze. Now, once you've done that, check your thoughts. Ask, am I making assumptions that aren't proven? And am I taking responsibility for emotions that aren't mine? These 2 questions, straight from therapy playbooks, directly target INFJ tendencies. Often we assume someone will be mad or hurt if we assert ourselves. But is that a fact or our projection? And we often unconsciously take on responsibility for making everyone happy. But is it really our job to manage others' feelings? These questions cut through the vague anxiety and force you to separate your feelings from the other person's. Maybe you'll realize I'm assuming the worst. Maybe my friend would understand if I say I need rest. Or I feel responsible for their crisis, but objectively, I'm not. I can't fix their life for them. This mental reset moves you from emotional reasoning back to a bit of logical perspective. The beauty of the pause and breathe reset is that you can do it anytime, even in the middle of a tense conversation. You can excuse yourself to the restroom if needed, or simply pause. Take a sip of water and breathe while the other person is talking. These tiny breaks prevent the emotional calculation from running away into catastrophic territory. It's like rebooting a computer that's starting to glitch. With practice, you'll notice you can stay present and make conscious choices instead of reflexive, people-pleasing ones. 3. Emotional labeling. Name the feelings to tame the feelings. INFJs often experience emotions like a tangled ball of yarn, especially when they're both theirs and others mixed together. A powerful but underrated tool is emotional labeling. It's as simple as it sounds, naming exactly what you're feeling in a given moment. Psychologically, this helps untangle that ball. One resource on INFJ emotional regulation put it perfectly. When you understand the emotional load you're carrying at any moment, you can factor it into your thinking and adjust accordingly. In other words, if you can say, I feel guilty and tired and a little angry, you suddenly see why you're about to say yes when you don't want to, maybe out of guilt, and you can question that. To practice emotional labeling, try a quick exercise in a journaling session or even mentally. Reflect on a recent situation where you went into people-pleaser mode or shut down. Write down or list every distinct emotion you find in that memory. For example, when my coworker took credit for my work, I felt betrayed, then furious, then ashamed for feeling furious, then anxious about confrontation, then sad. Whoa, that's a lot, right? But by labeling each one, you've sort of sorted them out of the blurry overwhelm. You might realize, no wonder I went silent. I was processing 5 feelings at once. Then you can address each. Betrayal might mean that boundary was crossed. Fury indicates something needs to change. Shame and anxiety suggest fear of conflict. Sadness points to loss of trust. Now you actually have a map of your emotional landscape, whereas before it was just a storm cloud. For INFJs, this tool is incredibly validating because it leverages our natural introspection. We are good at nuance. Use that skill on yourself. If you struggle to identify feelings, there are feeling wheel charts. You can Google that list, dozens of emotions. Scan one and see which words resonate. Sometimes just saying, I am feeling X, takes its power down a notch. It moves you from inside the feeling to an observer of it. That slight detachment can be enough to decide a better course of action. Instead of being blindly driven by a vague cloud of emotion, which often defaults to avoid conflict, you can think, I'm very anxious right now because I don't want to upset him, but I'm also hurt. What can I do that respects both of us? It encourages a response that's neither an explosive outburst nor total silent swallowing, something more balanced. 4, trusting intuition, nigh your secret weapon. It might sound ironic after all this talk that INFJs overthink the future, but one of the strategies to stop the unhealthy calculations is actually to trust your first instinct more. As an INFJ intuition, your NI is one of your greatest strengths. It's that immediate gut feeling or flash of insight you get before your mind starts. It's anxious. What if spiral? Think about times you've had a split-second inner knowing, like the instant relief at the thought of not attending an event or a tightness in your chest. The moment someone asks a favor, that initial feeling is a clue to what you truly need or believe. Before the layers of people-pleasing, guilt, bury it. Practice catching that first whisper. When someone makes a request of you, or when you're about to enter a potentially draining situation, pause and check in with your gut. What's your very first reaction in your body or mind? Maybe your stomach sinks a no signal, or you feel a spark of excitement, a yes signal. That is me speaking unfiltered as the 16 personalities. Folks, put it before your mind starts spinning with what ifs and obligations. That first feeling is often your truest guide. Honor it. You don't have to act on it instantly, but note it down. My gut says I really don't want to do this. Why is this important? Because trusting your intuition is essentially trusting yourself. It's reinforcing that variable you in the equation. When you act against your gut consistently, you erode self-trust and create inner conflict. Conversely, each time you listen to me and set a boundary or make a choice aligned with it, you gain confidence that, hey, the world didn't end when I respected my own insight. Start small. Maybe it's declining, a minor invite that you know isn't right for you. or speaking up with an opinion that you usually would have suppressed, but your intuition says is important. Notice the outcomes. Usually you'll find that either A, people take it just fine, even if a bit surprised, and may respect you more for it. Or B, if someone reacts badly to you, asserting a need or truth respectfully, that's information about them and the relationship, and maybe confirms your intuition that this person isn't safe for your mental well-being. Your intuition is like an inner compass. It factors in your values and subconscious pattern recognition. INFJs often ignore the compass to follow the map others laid out. I'm encouraging you peek at that compass more often. It can prevent you from wandering so far off your own path that you get lost in others' expectations. 5, scheduled solitude and reflection, prevent overload. INFJs need alone time like lungs need oxygen. Yet we often deny ourselves this critical recharge because we're busy tending to others or caught in analysis paralysis. A proactive tool is to schedule solitude before you hit a breakdown. Think of it as emotional maintenance. One practical exercise from INFJ coaches is to designate a specific time each day for emotional processing. For example, give yourself 30 minutes each evening to just reflect, journal, speak your thoughts out loud, pray or meditate, whatever suits you, but that time is yours to unpack the day's feelings during the day. When intrusive worries or feelings come up, you can tell yourself, I'll handle this during my 9:00 p.m. reflection time. This way you're not suppressing emotions, but compartmentalizing them to prevent constant rumination. It's like making an appointment with yourself to deal with the mental clutter rather than carrying it 24/7. Research suggests this can satisfy your INFJ judging side, which likes structure while keeping the emotional waves from flooding you at all hours during this solitude time. Do things that truly recharge you, reading creative hobbies or nothing at all. Importantly, no guilt allowed. This is not wasting time. This is charging your batteries. If you have family or roommates, communicate that this is your essential quiet time. Guard it like a meeting with your boss, because truly it's a meeting with the CEO of your life, your inner self. By regularly clearing your emotional cache, you'll find the daily calculations become less overwhelming. You're less likely to snap or door slam because you're not letting the pressure cooker build to explosive levels. Solitude is where INFJs sift through what feelings belong to them and what were picked up from others. It's where you can recenter on your priorities and values. So you emerge into the world each day a bit more solid, a bit less likely to lose yourself in the emotional noise. Finally, let's talk about communication. All the internal work is crucial, but at some point you have to externalize your needs to truly reshape relationships. This is often the scariest part for INFJs, telling people no, or I disagree, or I need this from you. But there are gentle ways to start. One tip is to frame your needs in terms of mutual benefit or us versus the problem. For instance, instead of accusing someone, which we INFJs hate doing anyway, frame it as, I want to make sure we're both at our best. I think I need an evening to recharge so I can fully support you later. Can we catch up tomorrow instead? Here you've said not now, but in a caring way that signals you do want to help just within your limits. Or at work. I believe the team will do better if we consider another approach, may I suggest? You're inserting your perspective without direct confrontation. These are just examples. The exact words must feel authentic to you. The point is, find phrases that allow you to voice your truth while honoring your style of empathy. Also, practice small boundary setting in low-stakes situations to build that muscle. Maybe it's telling a friend, I'm actually going to stay in this weekend, but I hope you have fun. Or telling a coworker, I can't chat right now, I need to focus for an hour. Notice that the world doesn't crumble. Each of these moments is an emotional victory. You included yourself in the social equation and everything turned out okay, or at least manageable. And what if someone isn't okay with your boundaries? That's revealing. Healthy friends or partners will respect you more once they understand you have needs too. If someone reacts very negatively or tries to guilt trip you for taking care of yourself, that is a sign that this relationship might need re-evaluation. In those cases, remember, you're not responsible for their reaction. Stay firm yet compassionate. I'm sorry if this upsets you, but I hope you can understand I need to do this for me. You don't have to over-explain or apologize profusely for simply being a human with limits. One more communication hack. If direct confrontation is hard, consider writing a letter or message to express bigger feelings. INFJs often write more coherently than we speak in emotional moments. All those thoughts untangle on paper. It's okay to deliver your message in the medium that best represents you, especially for initial difficult conversations. Over time, voicing it will get easier. We've covered a lot. From the invisible emotional calculus that INFJs perform to the burnout it can lead to, from deep psychological insights to very concrete tools for change. If you're still here, I want you to take a moment and recognize something powerful. You have just invested time in understanding and validating yourself. That is something many INFJs struggle to do. We're usually busy understanding others. This is a huge first step in taking back emotional control. Remember, your empathy and intuition are phenomenal gifts. They let you sense and uplift others in ways the world desperately needs. The goal isn't to lose those gifts, it's to finally include yourself in their warm glow. When you balance your needs with others, your empathy becomes sustainable and even more effective. It empowers you instead of depleting you. You can live in alignment with that deep INFJ integrity and still have energy left for you. Now, here's my call to action for you, because insight without action is just interesting theory. I challenge you to practice one tool from this video in the next week. Maybe schedule 2 you hours on your calendar and treat them as sacred. Or say, I'll get back to you instead of yes, immediately. Buying yourself time to journal on a decision. If this video resonated, make sure you're subscribed to our INFJ community here. We dive deep like this every week. Thank you so much for spending this time with me, and more importantly, with yourself. Remember, you are a complex, one-of-a-kind soul, and you deserve the same depth of care and understanding that you so freely give to others. Until next time, take care of your beautiful mind and heart. You've got this.